This is Micornus, Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I continue once more today with part two of this great topic that speaks about factors that cause leaders to scatter churches. Factors that cause leaders to scatter the churches. Now, today I want to start with the factor called wrong ministry. The factor called wrong ministry. It's one of the factors that cause leaders to break down and scatter their own churches and destroy their own churches. And this issue of wrong ministry is very common as well amongst pastors, particularly in the days that we're living in, where everybody else opens churches. And some of the people open the churches because they are friends of open churches. Some of the people open churches because of financial constraints, and therefore they see a church as an easier way of making money. And we have seen these things happening, of course, in the days that we're living in. And that has caused actually wrong ministries actually being established. Now, I want to emphasize the fact that the practice of using church titles, the practice of using positions as well as ordinations and to retain people in leadership positions in church without allowing them to work according to their God-given ministries will always work against the well-being of any local church. And I'm sure you would realize what I'm talking about here, that sometimes we are quick to ordain. We are quick to bring people to positions and call them pastors so quickly. And even those young brothers that are still growing, and we want to keep them and not allow them to go away. We put them into positions, then we ordain them quickly. And that becomes very detrimental because that practice generally is done in our Pentecostal churches. And we have seen that it kills the people because you put them in a position that they are not capable of. You put them in a position that they are not mature to handle yet. Because of that, then that actually destroys them because it's not a God-given ministry to them. So it is very important that we understand that if you quickly ordain somebody into a certain ministry that may not be his God-given ministry, they are going to focus on doing things that way or in that line of that particular ministry. And they may miss out that which is God-given ministry and in that local church. And therefore you may miss out for the rest of your life to get the best out of the potential of this young man or this young lady, but also they themselves may be off-tracked or sidetracked completely for the rest of their lives. So therefore, we must be careful on what positions we ordain our young people into. And it is very important that also we align it with their giftings, because if you go into work outside your own giftings, then you will be sidetracked. You will find yourself doing things that you're not called to be doing. So this is most of the things where you'll find some of the people that are supposed still to be ushers, and they're supposed to be just counselors, for instance, they've been ordained into pastoral ministry. And they are pastors now all of a sudden, and they are not matured enough to handle the capacity of being a pastor. And that will scatter the church. That will kill the church, because then you're having people that are wrongly placed in positions of leadership. While they were supposed to be led themselves, they're still to be submitting to be led themselves. They are now leaders. They are now forced to lead other people. And that is problematic because it will kill the church. Because you'll find people that are not having the right gifting sets or skill sets for what they are doing. And they are not knowledgeable about what they are doing as well. So therefore, they cannot lead the people in the right things because they themselves need to be led in those things. So that kills the church. If your gifting is administration and yet you're operating as a lead pastor, you can imagine that. Because you will actually deaden the church. You will kill the church because you're supposed to be just a simple administrator in the church, but you are being ordained to become a pastor. We have seen people that are music leads. We're talking about praise and worship leaders. And some pastors will rush them into ordaining these people into the position of a pastor. And then they start to operate as pastors while they're supposed to be praise and worship leaders. We have seen a lot of youth leaders that have actually been ordained into pastors or youth pastors. And as a result, therefore, they are constrained by this big position over their shoulders. And they are actually being stifled up in a way that they're doing things that they're not capable of doing. Now, because of that, then that kills the church, because they don't have proper skill sets, as I've said. They don't have also the giftings that they can actually be able to lead the church. They've got no leadership skills at all, but yet we have actually imposed them to become leaders. And this is something that is very important that we take care of, and because otherwise churches die because of that. Now, the next factor that causes leaders to scatter churches is prayerlessness and what we call powerlessness as well. Now, I'm sure you would understand what is the importance of prayer, especially in our Pentecostal churches. If we don't understand the importance of prayer, then therefore we're not going to be able to instill prayer even in the church itself. And when you have leaders that cannot pray, you've got leaders that have got no power and spirituality, that are dry people in leadership positions in a local church, they will surely bring decay and death unto the church. And we have seen that prayer meetings are full sometimes of members, and the church leadership is not there. And that must be a warning to you as a senior pastor if you have appointed leaders into positions, but yet they don't regard prayer as important. Prayer meetings should be led by the very same people that you've appointed into leadership. Prayer meetings should be actually a daily attendance or frequency for the leaders of the church themselves, because that sets an example. One, what it does, it actually makes people to be aware that it is very important to pray when they see the leaders actually being prayerful. And that's a very key strategy, that if you want to see members being prayerful in the church, start with your own leadership. Let the leadership be prayerful. Let the leadership consider prayer meetings as important. Then you'll start to see the members coming. Church that is not prayerful as a congregation is purely because the leaders don't take prayer serious, and the leaders don't become prayerful themselves, and they don't attend prayer meetings. So therefore you will not see any way that you're going to see, there's no way you're going to see the church actually itself growing, and you're not going to see the church actually itself having people that are prayerful, because if the leadership is not prayerful, you're not going to see the church prayerful at all. And I must also emphasize the fact that it is very important that prayer meetings, therefore, are led, because prayer meetings are more visionary in nature. So therefore, let it be that the leaders are able to lead those prayer meetings and assign or compile what we call prayer items as well for the church, because the leadership, if they don't compile prayer items, people may pray for anything that they want to pray for. They will have to rely on the human wisdom to lead the church, and they will lead the church down if they are not prayerful. And if you have in the leaders that are not prayerful, they're going to use human mind. They're going to use their own human wisdom. And we have seen that if you do so, you're basically going to kill the church itself. Now, ministers that lack the power of God cannot arrest the decline in any given church. And that is why churches decline in the watch of the leaders, and nobody can actually be able to manage it. Now, I want to speak about scandal and questionable lives as one of the factors that scatter churches. Scandals and questionable lives as one of those factors that scatter churches. And most leaders or leadership teams of local churches, they have something to hide in their marital lives, and sometimes they've got something to hide in their financial lives and their business lives as well. And they often because of that, then affect the church, because when those things get revealed to the face of the congregation, that scatters the church itself. They often serve as bad examples, so the church members, but will use their top positions in the church to cover their tracks generally. And you find that they're corrupt, you find that they are not having right mentality into their businesses and so on. And because of that, then they're hiding those things and they close their tracks and so that the church members may not know. And that becomes very vital, that leadership in a church becomes clear from these things. Leaders that behave in ways that injure people's hearts and lives will bring more damages to their churches than anybody. So whatever you do, make sure that as a leader, whether you are the senior pastor or even associate pastors, you don't do things that will hurt other people's lives. If you do so, you're basically destroying the church itself, because remember that the church is seen as a safe haven. Is seen as a place where everybody's comfortable to worship God, where everybody find the place to be safe, actually, with their own families in there. But anything that is done by the church leader that is hurting other people's hearts, it is going to destroy the church, because that will surely not be exemplary at all. Because the church's example should be that there's a good heart, it is safety first there, everybody is loving, and everybody is actually taking care of each other there. And that's very, very important that we emphasize that. And anything contrary to that will destroy and scatter the church. And we've seen that happening. When you have skeletons in your cupboard, then you will lead the church down because of that. When you've got some hidden things, you've got things that if exposed outside to the people, they'll shock the community, they'll shock the congregation itself. Those type of things, therefore, can destroy your church. So therefore, be careful as a leader that you don't have skeletons in your cupboard, and you are careful of those that you don't set the wrong example at all. I want to end up here today, your host, Micornus Phokane. I hope that you have had a mouthful, you have learned out of this. You will be able to actually implement this in your church to make sure that you don't scatter or destroy your own church. Now, before I check out, allow me to remind you of our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, and the other Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. Like those Facebook pages. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Our YouTube channel has got a lot of materials that we've posted over the years, and still very, very important information that you'll get from there. So please visit our YouTube channel and make sure that you subscribe and click notification buttons all around, that you're notified when we've posted materials in those platforms, and you will learn out of that. May the good Lord bless you. Allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.